Hello everyone, this is part 13 of What If Naruto Married Ino Till Death, and I hope you guys enjoy this video and to like, to subscribe, to share, and check out the playlist, to see more comment down below. Now let's start the intro.
They call me a god. They call me a god. They call me a god.
Join my membership, the perks are great. It's in the description. Be sure to like and subscribe, it gives me more motivation. Enjoy. Previously, the question is this a cover-up or was he taken as well, and possibly yes, Kabuto formulated as he waited in the silence. The silence was senning. It became a knife as it thins out slowly as if it was ready to cut through a strand of hair. What are we going to do? Naruto sat on the couch after walking around looking for Kiba. He wasn't sure if there was anything wrong with him, but with his girl sitting at the other end of the couch made him confused. Kiba may be a player, but he wouldn't stand anyone up, especially this female he's been more intimate with. Where could he be? The female asked with her eyes filled with confusion and sadness. She turned her dark eyes toward the blonde male and hoped for an answer. Naruto knew what she wanted to hear, but he couldn't give it. He doesn't even know where his bud could be or where he had gone off to. All he knew was that something was wrong. He already called Lee and Gara, who seems to be as shocked and confused as he was. Neji, he assumed, was probably at a business meeting with Hinata. He sat back against the couch and took in a deep breath. I don't know. She walked around the room once again, feeling a bit of a homely feeling toward the shadows. She couldn't help the smirk that appears every time she smelled the fear and see the fear. Yeah, she may be crazy, but she didn't care, not one bit. Do you remember when we first met? Karen asked within the darkness. Yes, she heard, the blonde answered along with a nod. She took a step forward into the small outlet of light. She saw the sadness that crossed the pretty blonde's features, but she didn't think twice upon it when she spoke. Then why did everyone left me? She spoke a bit softly, but as she finished her words, the anger fell into her speech. For you. Shikamaru had all eyes staring at him, confused and a bit startled by his unusual outburst. He was angry and pissed from what had just been said a few seconds earlier. His face contorted in anger and fists clenched with electrifying madness that it took all his willpower to not use it. How dare you call yourself her friend when you have no faith in her? He screamed with anger evaporating through his tonsils. The nerves. She had always believed in him even when time wasn't on their side, so what makes him think otherwise now? Ino could fend for herself and the bastard had to say otherwise. He could feel the fire burning and surging through his blood and under his skin as his eyebrow twitched from the explanation. We just need to see all sides of the story and not just one, Kabuto tried to explain as he reached for the bloodstained sheet. Though we know this was in Roy's room, we do not know for sure that it is his. But it can't be Ino's. Tenten tried to speak up but just ended up in silence. We must open our mind to everything, Kabuto stated. It isn't Ino's, the ponytail-haired male spoke through his gritted teeth as Hinata pulled him to a sitting position. Shikamaru, please calm down, I'm sure she is fine. Hinata tried to say assuring. Why would you think it could be Ino's? Sai questioned as he faced toward Kabuto, who continued to stay calm. If, for a chance, that he had asked Ino to meet him to explain things. Kabuto theorized. Quote. Ino wouldn't just leave him, she'd make the effort to meet. Kin finished as she continued to ponder on unanswered questions in her mind. But, Hinata voiced horrified and distraught. Ino, that can't be. I can't believe it, the pale-eyed female continued. Besides, she came over to my house yesterday, but before she could finish, someone spoke up. Why did she go to your room? Sai had asked as everyone's eyes landed on her. She wanted to thank me, Hinata answered a bit hesitant. For what? Shino asked a bit harsher than he thought. The meditation techniques that I taught her. Hinata continued before any interruptions. She left with Naruto the last time I've seen him. She noted the shocked angry faces and quickly finished. I know he'd never do anything to hurt her because. Naruto, the blonde kid. Kabuto spoke aloud almost to himself. Should we speak to him? Tenten asked. We may find out where she was last. I also agree that we speak with him. He may be a lead or the culprit, Shino had stated seriously, bring the tension in the room at an all-time high. He's not the culprit because he wouldn't hurt her, Hinata voiced aloud. He's a good guy and he. Before she could finish, there was a knock at the door. The noise evaporated through the room and filled each and everyone's ears. They waited and another knock was heard. Eyes shifted toward the others as if to ask which one of them would open the door. A brave soul got up hesitantly and walked slowly to the door while two hid beside the door, one on either side. The others stood near the sides in case anything happens. They waited for a few more seconds to only hear another knock upon the door. The brave one with his dark shades turned the knob slowly with a firm GS. He cracked open the door slowly and waited to see if anything was going to be pushed in, but found and heard nothing. He cracked it open a bit wider and forced himself to look out. What he saw surprised him that he couldn't hide the look of shock even if he tried. A tall male, heavy built, orangey brown hair and small beady eyes stood with a look of confusion. Choji. X. Previously. The brave one with his dark shades turned the knob slowly with a firm GS. He cracked it open a bit wider and forced himself to look out. A tall male, heavy built, orangey brown hair and small beady eyes stood with a look of confusion. Choji. The brunette walked in slowly knowing who was there. For the first time in his life, he stood her up. It wasn't like he meant to do what he did. He didn't expect to be there and didn't expect to do what he did. Flashback. He was just walking around aimlessly glancing. Then out of nowhere, a pretty redhead passed by with her long legs. He couldn't help himself when he turned to look once more, to see her smiling such an adorable yet playful smile toward him. He smirked back and was about to take a step forward, but she beat him to it. Wow, you look more handsome since the last time I saw you, she whispered into his ears out in the open streets. He felt the shivers run through his veins and his smirk easily became a large grin plastered across his face. He leaned down slightly close to her ears and breathed into it. You're as sea as I remembered, he whispered back feeling her hands roaming across his chest. She started licking her lips. Why don't we go somewhere private? She offered softly as she nibbled on an ear. Kiba fought it. It took all his manpower and will to stop his undeniable urge. The lust was overcoming him and he had to grip her shoulders to remind him of someone. I got to go, he whispered while pushing her back slightly. He took a step back only to feel arms wrapped around him and body pressed against him. Kiba-kun, she pleaded softly looking up at him. I need you. Flashback ends. Damn, she was beautiful, he thought to himself as he took a few steps closer to the living room. What he saw made his eyes feel like it grew 5 times bigger, his head was in flames, and his ears steaming with smoke. The image was going to be forever intact into his memory and could plague his dreams. Ino watched her KPER sitting and staring out what looks like a small window. She wondered if there happened to be a window, where were the lights? Karen, the blonde spoke out. What exactly do you want with me? The look she received from the woman in glasses made her cringe inside from the evil smirk she was producing. The red-headed female took a few steps closer to her, yet she still avoided the light like a bat. Ino could hear the sound of laughter rumbling through the empty walls of the dark room. Ino felt another shiver running into her bones, momentarily shocking them. She moved sideways still against the floor. The clinks and clangs around her arms and legs echoed into the air, stopping the laughter. The blonde heard footsteps closer to her, then it stopped. Oh dear Ino, she said jokingly. Don't be scared, she chuckled. Remember those wonderful magic that we played with? Yeah. Why? Ino asked confused. Oh nothing, she answered amused. Let me reveal someone that you know. Ino wanted to ask who it was, but she had entered the dark once more, leaving the blonde alone. Choji. Tenten repeated, staring at the big-boned male who sat a bit amused. Tenten, you repeated my name about 10 times already. The baby-faced male answered, scratching the side of his face. It's just, the bund-haired female said with her lips rounded and eyes wide. It's really hard to believe that you're here, Choji-kun, Hinata spoke for the brunette. The pale-eyed female was happy that their old friend was here, but the timing was just so wrong. Naruto's feelings for Ino would be torn apart, also she was missing and neither men knew about it, and to add to it all, Neji knew. I just hope he doesn't tell Naruto. She thought to herself as she watched the beady-eyed male smile toward her. She had to force one in return and tried to push any thoughts of negativity behind her, or else she'd get lost in the void like before. Flashback. A small girl was pushed against the wall while crowds were forming around them. She wanted to scream but nothing came from her mouth, but squeaks. An older female stood above the small girl laughing as she noticed the tears forming around the pale eyes of the child. Are you going to cry, you cry baby? The older female with short golden brown hair bellowed out. Everyone started laughing and the small version of Hinata wanted to cry out, but she held it in as much as she could. Maybe she does cry a lot, but it doesn't give this girl the right to embarrass her. Hey, what are you doing? A voice called out. All eyes landed on a tall blonde male whose hands landed on some of the kids' shoulders who stood in the crowd. When the kids saw the older male, they started dispersing and running from him as quickly as they could. Once every child was gone, one was left with tears cascading down her eyes. The tall male knelt down in front of her and placed a hand on her head. There, child, he spoke soothingly. Why were they hurting you? He had asked. The small child looked up at him and began crying more. She couldn't believe that she was crying in front of an older male. Her father would be so displeased with her. Daddy, a voice yelled out. The older male turned with a smile toward the voice. Hinata mimicked the older male to see a child no older than her running toward them. Her hair was short, no longer than her shoulders, and it was as gold as the morning sun. Hinata stared in awe as the male wrapped his arms around the little blonde child. I was looking for you, the little girl pouted. Honey, I just took a walk, the one called Daddy said. Besides, I was just speaking to, he turned to the child frozen against the wall. The bright blue eyes of the other child stared as well. My name is, the pale-eyed child stuttered as she stared at the floor. Ino. A group of kids screamed as they ran toward her. The one named Ino turned with a large smile. She looked toward her father and shook him slightly. Can I go to Karen's house? She asked cutely with one of the cutest smiles. Anoiki was about to reply when a small child with two ponytail interrupted. Hey, it's the crybaby, she hollered for everyone to hear. Hinata shrunk further into the walls as her head hung lower near the ground. She didn't want to cry, but her tears began slipping through as she tried so desperately to stop it. She was in a dilemma. Should she stay and be made fun of or should she run and be called a loser? She didn't know which to choose, knowing that both were horrible situations for her added struggle in belonging. She wanted to hide from the laughters of the children and the upset features that she was sure the blonde male wore. Stop it! The little blonde girl screamed, causing every laughter to screech into a halt. Her little foot brought her to the one who stared up in wonder and confusion. Hinata wanted to ask why, she wanted to know why, but she was a bit afraid. Afraid that the little blonde girl was tricking her like everyone else. What's your name? The little version of a young Ino asked. Hinata's eyes grew wider and her breath caught itself in her tea. Was she really asking for her name? Does she really care? Hinata hesitated a bit longer than she had hoped, noticing the confused stares she was receiving from the kids. It's Hinata, she whispered softly, causing the small blonde to move in closer. Hinta, she asked with both eyebrows raised in confusion. Hinata, the pale-eyed girl spoke a bit louder. Hey guys, her name is Hinata, not Crybaby. Ino screamed aloud happily. She leaned in closer to Hinata and spoke gently as if she was a mother comforting her child. I knew it wasn't Crybaby, she whispered with a grin. Who would call her child that? She laughed aloud as the others stared. End flashback. Hinata forced the laughter away as she continued to listen to the conversation between old friends. How she missed Ino and her ways, as she tuned into what was being said. Naruto stirred as he felt the sleep drifting off of him. He opened his mouth to yawn as he reached out only to feel something laying on his shoulder. His eyes slowly opened to reveal hazy blue eyes. He blinked the blueriness away and tried his best to focus on who was in front of him. All he could see was the color brown. Kiba. The blonde spoke up, confused as he continued to blink his sleep away. The blonde tried to sit up only to feel something pushing him down. He blinked a few more times and looked down to where he feels a small bit of pressure. His eyes widened and his mouth hung slightly when he realized who it was on top of him. The blonde quickly snapped his head toward the man in brown to see him sit down on a chair beside him. In Naruto's mind, he was fighting to scream because at this moment he must have looked guilty in doing something he didn't commit. The female laid on top of him with her small skimpy outfit that she wore just for the man sitting beside him. Naruto, being Naruto, picked up the female's hand that laid across his chest and pushed it away. He tried to smoothly move away from under the female only to have her stir awake. Naruto froze as he watched the female softly got up a bit hazy. She blinked a few times and looked up to see Naruto with his big blue eyes. She wondered why he was looking at her like that, but once her eyes moved up did she realize the face of the man she wanted to see. Kiba, morning sleepy head, he said softly as he watched her back away from his best friend. He already had a feeling of what he thought of the two, and to be honest, he did. The way they looked asleep when he walked in was like walking into disaster. The way Naruto slept comfortably with his arms around his girl, she with her head placed on the blonde's chest. It made the blood under his skin boil as his heart thumped erratically. What were these two doing without him there? Did they had something intimate with one another? Was everything about Ino a fake, a ploy that made him distracted from the truth? He didn't know, but something in the back of his mind screamed for him to get a GS, to realize that Naruto would never do something like that, but then again. Who knows? Kiba, I can explain. Naruto started hesitantly as he moved further away from the female. Nah, don't worry, the brunette said as he held up his hand. It's K. We didn't. What? Naruto screamed aloud, finally registering what his buds said as the morning sun entered the skies. Those on the couch looked at the brunette confused with wide open eyes. They wondered if he was alright by the way he smiled sadly yet confidently at them. They thought maybe he had had too much to drink that night, causing his mind to change. Naruto wasn't complaining too much for the fact that he wasn't going to get chewed out for doing something he didn't do, but then again with the fact that his best friend isn't who he was at the moment scares him a bit. The girl beside him just stared confused. Her head tilted slightly to the side as her mind raced with questions. Something looks different about him, as if he had a guilty conscience of some sorts. I know you wouldn't do anything to my girl, Kiba stated with a smile. But I did something. Naruto stared at him confused. What does Kiba meant by what he said? Did he do something as to cheat on his girlfriend? He couldn't fight the urge to ask as his mind played things that may have gone on between his best friend. What did you do? Naruto seethed out angrily only to have his friend look away. This is not going to end well. The brunette thought as he felt the guilt overwhelmed him as he looked at his best friend and girlfriend. Not good at all. The man with long silver hair had his head on the countertop with a wooden spoon in hand. He looked as if he had been backing out of cooking all day with the mess around him. Powders of white laid on the tiled floor and around his head against the counter. Pots were filled with water, some with broth and what seems like vegetables. Silverwares looked as if they were flinged from one side to the other. An oil bottle sped from the side of the counter near many cookwares. The silver male stirred as if to awake only to fall back asleep as his body hit the floor. So sleepy, he thought, and wondered why he felt so exhausted as his mind fogged up and darkness took him with open arms. Choji sat up as the sun hit his face through the crack of window. He looked around the room to see Shino's bed emptied. He could feel it in his bones that something wasn't right with the way they avoided answering questions to where his blonde friend was. Flashback. He couldn't help laughing with the way Tenten couldn't stop saying his name in wonder. Her stare unnerved him with her surprised expression. Hey guys, Choji started. Have you seen Ino? The question halted the smiles and stares. Everyone looked toward one another, adding to the eerie silence. Kin glanced at the invited before looking toward Hinata. I can't believe school is tomorrow, she announced. I have a freaking test too. As do I, Hinata agreed with a soft smile while Shino asked if they were thirsty and wanted anything to drink. I'll take a soda pop, Kabuto replied. Me too, Kin added with Tenten announcing, me three. Choji just stared a bit confused at the change of subject from Ino to drinks. He looked toward the genius to see him speaking to Sai while the others spoke among themselves. The auburn-colored haired male cleared his TA a bit harder than he'd like and brought up his question once more. Where's Ino? End flashback. It was all a bit strange after that. Though the answers left out his question, he couldn't help but saw sadness cross their faces. What was going on and what are they hiding were only a few questions that he had in his mind. He wonders if Mr. Yamanaka knew where his daughter was, since he told him that she was at Shino's place. I got a bad feeling, he whispered out as he stood up, feeling the confusion from last night resurfacing. Karen smirked at the face of Ino's. She can tell through her lenses that the blonde was exhausted and tired with the way her body slumped lower and lower. What's wrong, Ino-chan? She asked with a smirk. Are you tired? Ino fought it. Yes, she did, but the weariness is getting to her. The sleepiness was overwhelming her and her body feels like it was going to become pudding. Her muscles ache and her head hurts, but she kept fighting as her stubborn nature wouldn't give in. Why did you show me that teddy bear? She spat out without knowledge as she pointed toward the brown fiery colored stuffed cotton bear. Its eyes were so dark as if it held all their secrets, its yarned mouth loosened from years of living, its black nose missing with its fur tousled. Karen glared at the blonde with all her hatred. What the hell do you mean by that? You do remember it, don't you? She snarled angrily. Of course I do, Ino yelled back. Why do you have it still? She continued after noticing the woman in glasses backing up. You must still be holding onto it for a reason. Ino finished softly, noticing the surprised look of her old friend. The look of surprise crossed her features from what the stupid blonde brat just said. How dare she shout at her and assume that she has this stupid bear in her hands for some reason? She doesn't need a reason to like a stuffed animal. She sure as hell doesn't need any reason to tell her capture the truth. Forget this damn bear, she screeched aloud. I was taking it easy on you, but fine. Whatever. She threw said bear away from her. The blonde female stared in fear as she heard the thud from the cotton bear hitting the cold concrete floor. Her eyes never left her kper as the red-headed female stepped back into the darkness to retrieve something. Ino tried really hard to force her eyes open as the weariness was becoming more overwhelming as the seconds ticked on. Her blue eyes was becoming dull as the whiteness around it becoming red from lack of sleep along with the darkness under her eyes. Yet, the sound of ruffles and gruffs awoke her and kept her senses sharp as she stared toward the corner where the noises were coming from. She could hear Karen screaming profanities at whoever it was, and she could also heard what seems to be a body being dragged. Closer it came, and Ino backed up into the wall with her knees close to her. She squinted into the dark hoping to see what or who it was that the glasses female was bringing toward her, but the darkness was too dense to see through it. The dragging stopped and the blonde wondered what Karen was planning to do, but her questions and mind halted as a body was thrown her way. The body laid close to hers and Ino couldn't help the large gasp she did as her face paled with shock and fear. Red pools of blood surrounded the body from the gashes and SS. His clothes were stained and his face dirtied, but the blood wasn't the first thing that caught her bright blue eyes. The first thing she saw was the color of his hair, navy blue. Roy, she whispered out as she reached toward the unconscious male. There's no need. Karen's voice became deep and mouse, he's X. That will be all for this video. Be sure to like, subscribe, share, and comment down below for more videos. Goodbye.